What? It looks like this year's Grand Prix goes to this fantastic warrior, the Nickel Samurai.
I don't know anything about the murder, but if you're talking about what I saw, that's different. I saw it very clearly. My camera! It's my life's blood. I'm gonna die without my $700 camera.
Jamming Midnight Rendezvous? To the mysterious yet beautiful manager to the co-stars, Miss AA.
I am Adrian Andrews.
I'm Mr. Ungard's manager. Miss Inpox's death was most certainly a suicide. Of that, there is no mistake. However, we could not find her suicide note. That's when the police began to suspect that someone had hidden it. There's a knife in his chest.
Yeah, pal, that's the moita weapon.
So about this wine glass.
Yeah, so you noticed it too, pal. The whole crime scene was a mess, but this glass was the only thing that was untouched.
Adrian Andrews. She has a certain secret she's always trying to hide. Her dependent nature. That's what she's really like on the inside. I've pushed against all of that, though. I've tried to live strongly. I never wanted anyone to find out the truth.
I don't need a traitor in my midst. You have 30 minutes to get out of here. You are no longer needed.
Hello and welcome back. This is Queen 3210 and, well, things got real. Things have gotten actually a little bit interesting. We are about to enter the trial that we are supposed to complete in a single day, but it seems Maya has, or might have actually escaped, so who knows if it will actually only last a day. Either way, we're gonna find out. March 22nd, 9:47 a.m. District Court, Defendant Lobby number 3. Adrian did it? That's what it looks like. Dude, no way! That woman couldn't do anything like that. In court today, there will be a mountain of evidence that will implicate you. A mountain of evidence? I'm certain there is someone out there trying very hard to pin this whole thing on you. Please, Mr. Lawyer. Dude, like I said yesterday, I'm refreshing like a spring breeze, alright? I can't let any sort of scandal ruin this. I understand. Well, it's almost time. Mia. We must get a complete acquittal today. I know. But I can't focus on Maya's situation right now. Or Pearl's either. No matter what, I have to focus on winning this case by the end of the day. Indeed. Well, let's get started. Is that a Von Karma tracer I detect? It's him. Or, no, it's the blackmailer. It's fine. This is Wright. Good morning. This is it, Mr. Attorney. The day of the trial. Maya. She's unharmed, right? Well, when I checked on her earlier this morning, she seemed a bit, how shall we say, tired? A likely excuse. Don't worry. People don't die that easy. Besides, what you really should be concentrating on is winning today's trial. For my sake, as well as yours, you must win today's trial. Which is why I sent you a little present this morning. Present? What in the world would you want to give to me? You'll figure it out once the trial starts. And even if you don't like my gift, I expect you to graciously accept it and win the day's contest, if you please. Wait! The kidnapper sent me a present? Mr. Lawyer dude, Who's that? Well, no one. It's got nothing to do with you, so just forget you heard anything. Dude, did your nose just, like, get longer? March 22nd, 10 a.m., District Court, Courtroom Number 3. Court is now in session for the trial of Matt on guard. Are the prosecution and defense ready? The defense is ready, Your Honor. Oh. Did someone kidnap Miss Von Karma? Please tell me someone kidnapped that bitch. I say, Mr. Wright, what happened to Miss Von Karma? I don't know, Your Honor. Why are you getting mad at me? Your Honor, please be quiet, bailiff. Court is now in session. If you must tell me something, please keep it brief. Now then, what is it? Prosecutor Von Karma has... This morning, Miss Von Karma was shot by an unknown gunman. Holy fucking shit. What? What? Shot? Okay, so there's a continuance. Somehow, I think this is the present that the man was talking about. His present? Dude! I mean, she's a bitch, but jeez! Overkill! Miss Von Karma is one of the top prosecutors in the country at the moment. If she were to disappear, it'd be to your advantage. This is totally insane. Miss Von Karma, is she alright? I don't have that answer. She's alive and in stable condition. Is it a return? Are we gonna see a specific prosecutor back in action? That's good. Yeah. You're... I thought he'd show up. Yep! Your Honor, due to the circumstances, Miss Francisca Von Karma cannot appear in court today. I, Miles Edgeworth, will be taking her place. Fucking called it. The prosecution is ready. Naturally. And why is he in the witness spot? Miss Von Karma was shot in her right shoulder and is currently undergoing surgery. Luckily, I have looked this case over and am familiar with the details. The prosecution seeks to prove the guilt of Mr. Matt on guard. The court acknowledges the prosecution. Right. I finally found the answer I was struggling for on my long journey this past year. By the time this case comes to an end, you too will know the answer. I mean, I don't want to outright accuse him because I want to believe that he wouldn't do something like this, but could he have been in league with the kidnapper? In which case, what he just did to Von Karma was an extremely dick move. Now then, the prosecution would like to call its first witness. Please bring Detective Gumshoe to the witness stand. Oh, guy is gonna flip when he see. Well, actually, no, he was aware Edgeworth was coming back. Never mind. Witness, your name and occupation. My name's Dick Gumshoe, sir. I'm a detective down at a precinct. For now. For now? After this trial's over, I'm supposed to turn in my badge, sir. Detective Gumshoe. The prosecution has no need for a depressed witness. Lift your head up and face forward like a proud officer, Detective Dick Gumshoe. Yes, sir. Now, let's have your testimony. If we want to explore the various facets of this case, we must start with that. Get ready, Phoenix. This is going to be one very rough fight. Yeah. It'd have to be with Edgeworth as my opponent. The answer he was struggling for? Interesting. Show me this answer you finally found, Edgeworth. Bare facts of the case. This might have happened after the hero of the award ceremony, sir. The victim, Juan Corrida, was found dead in his hotel room. After looking into the cause of death, we believe he was definitely murdered, sir. At first, we thought there was something suspicious about the empty guitar case. However, we later found out that the guitar case had nothing to do with the murder. After the award ceremony ended, the victim was alone in his room? Yes, sir. Both the victim and defendant went alone in their rooms, sir. I see. Mr. Wright, you may begin your cross-examination. Bare facts of the case, examination. Let's go. This might have happened after the Hero of the Hero Awards ceremony, sir. The victim, Juan Corrida, was found dead in his hotel room. The person who discovered the victim's body was Adrian Andrews, correct? Yeah. Who is this Adrian Andrews you're talking about? She's the defendant, Matt and God's manager. She's a real pretty lady, sir. Ah, so she's a pretty lady. I wonder if she will grace us with her presence. If I have anything to say about it, she will. When the post-ceremony show was about to get started, she went to get Mr. Ngad. After visiting his room, she went to the victim's room to get him for the show, sir. I see. And that's when she found the victim's body. After looking into the cause of death, we believed he was definitely murdered, sir. The cause of death? Wasn't that because Mr. Corrida was stabbed in the chest? Only a careless amateur would believe something so brainless as that, pal. Take a good hard look at a crime scene. Now, a real pro's attention would be drawn here to the bandana. Bandana? His bandana, sir. That's the thing wrapped tightly around his neck, sir. Oh, I see. Yes, yes. His banana-scented bandana. I feel like this judge gets dumber each episode. Then what about the knife? Seems to have been stuck in the victim's chest on purpose after his death. We have a crafty murderer on our hands here. Not crafty enough. If they were small, Time of death, 8:15 p.m. Cause, strangled with a scarf and stabbed with a knife. At first, we thought there was something suspicious about the empty guitar case. And why did you think that? Cause it was empty, pal. The Jammin' Ninja doesn't go nowhere without his bright red guitar. And we couldn't find it anywhere in the scene of the crime. Oh! Then how about this theory? A fan really wanted the guitar and did the crime to get it. How's that? How are you allowed? We thought that too, but... The only fingerprints on the guitar case were the victims. Only the victims? Huh? I see. Oh, so much for my theory then. Guitar case updated in the court record. However, we later found out that the guitar case had nothing to do with the murder. What convinced you it had nothing to do with the case? The guitar wasn't at the Gatewater Hotel that night. Well then, where was it? The bright red guitar was eventually found at a TV studio. The victim, Juan Corrida, had apparently only taken the case with him, so... So you mean he forgot to put the guitar inside the case? Yes, sir. Even when he was on stage for the ceremony, he didn't have his guitar. So the guitar case was empty even before he got to the hotel. Yeah, that's right. So it really had nothing to do with the case at all. I believe that is enough. First, the victim was choked to death with his bandana. Then, after the victim was dead, the killer deliberately stabbed him with a knife. Which brings me to my next point. Why, then, did the police arrest Matt Hungard? Because there was reason enough to suspect him. Here it comes. Looks like Edgeworth's back in full swing. Very well, Detective Gumshoe, please testify about this matter. Yes, sir. Matt Hungard and Juan Corrida were huge rivals with each other. They each thought the other guy was in his way. That's motive enough in my book. As for evidence, there's the Jammin' Ninja's button. It was ripped off of the ninja costume and found in Mr. Hungard's hakama. The defendant's fingerprints were also all over the knife. The defendant brought the knife for the crime, which makes this a premeditated murder. So the defendant's fingerprints were found on the knife used in the stabbing. It was sort of sticky on the handle, so the fingerprints came out real clear, so... Bears the victim's blood and Hungard's fingerprints in the gate water is engraved. I wonder if someone used his dinner knife. And there's this button. That was found in the defendant's clothes, was it? And is this button also covered in blood? Yeah, we know that the blood on it is the victim's blood, sir. What? Jammin' Ninja's button added to the court record. All of this points very clearly to the defendant, doesn't it? Yes, it most certainly does, Your Honor. Ready to give in yet, right? I'll find the hole in your argument somehow. You can press as hard as you'd like. Just hurry up with your pointless questions. Ugh. Why arrest Hungard? Matt Hungard and Juan Corrida were huge rivals with each other. But in terms of popularity, Mr. Hungard won, did he not? Yeah. But you know what's ironic, pal? Juan Corrida was always one step behind Mr. Hungard in everything. This year it seemed like he'd finally caught up, ready for the big final showdown. But Mr. Corrida lost the Grand Prix in the end. That's too bad. He must have been pretty downhearted after losing. They each thought the other guy was in his way. That's motive enough in my book. Wait just 1 second here. Mr. Hungard was beating Mr. Corrida in the popularity polls. Well, yeah, I guess, but... Which means that in the defendant's eyes, the victim was not a rival at all. Which means he had no motive to kill. Yes, I quite agree. Well, detective? It's not... Well... I guess if you put it that way, then yeah, the defendant would have had no motive. Detective, I'm beginning to see why you were fired. Wow. No, not you too, Mr. Edgeworth. Sorry, that's... I look forward to your pension negotiations. No! Now then, detective, let's continue with the testimony. No. Not my poor pension, so... Detective, if you value your money, I suggest you proceed. Yes, sir. We can talk about my pension later, sir. What about what I was saying? Hello? Anyone? As for evidence, there's the Jamming Ninjas button. Do you have any proof that the button belonged to the victim? Huh? What do you mean, pal? Oh, let me put it this way. I'm asking you if you have any evidence to back up your claim that this button was ripped off of the Jamming Ninja's costume. Huh? But can't you tell just by looking at it? And the victim's blood's on it. Anyone could have smeared the blood on there afterward. Mr. Edgeworth, help me, sir! Alright. I knew it had to be this piece of evidence. Now to reel this one in. Thread. Huh? The button was attached to the costume by thread, obviously. And that thread snapped when the button was torn off. If you could match up the ends of the thread on the costume with the thread on the button, it's a perfect match. Yeah, that's it. They're a perfect match, pal. Ugh. That's Edward for you. Never misses a beat. It was ripped off of the ninja costume was found in Mr. Ungad's Hakama. When was this button found? Pretty soon after the body was found, we rounded up everyone who knew Mr. Karita. And then we did a search on them all. That's where we found a button. So it was almost immediately after the murder. The police didn't have the free time to lollygag and play tricks, unlike some. Hey, what's he trying to say about me here? The defendant's fingerprints were also all over the knife. How were the fingerprints arranged on the knife? Eh? Well, what do you mean, pal? By examining the fingerprints, you can determine how the defendant held the knife. For example, did he hold it normally or overhand? Oh, is that what you meant? Well, we didn't actually dig it at. I can't believe the bumbling of this department. Hopeless. Were you paying attention to the testimony, Mr. Wright? The defendant's fingerprints were all over the knife. There's no way to determine how the knife was held at the moment of the murder. So is the defendant the owner of this knife, then? The defendant bought the knife for the crime, which makes this a premeditated murder. There's no way this was a premeditated murder, even if he bought the knife. Sorry, pal. This isn't some pocket knife. Doesn't fold, so it's not great for walking around with Nina. Ugh, well, this is not good. If the prosecution can prove it was a premeditated murder, then we're done for. Phoenix. Yeah? There's something very interesting about what the detective said just now. Think carefully before it's too late. A button covered in the victim's blood, and a knife with Unguard's fingerprints. Be grateful. If the judge were more rash, he would have already pounded his gavel in closing. We're still in a world of trouble, though. Well, before any battle, you must find your enemy's weakness. So let's find the weakness in this testimony, no matter how small it may be. Okay, Phoenix? And he starts from the beginning. Let's see... Wait a second. What? So the basis of your argument that this was a premeditated murder is simply that my client bought a knife beforehand? That's right, pal. The defendant did not buy this knife. Eh? Take a good look at the handle of this knife, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Eh? It has a gatewater seal set into the handle. Gatewater? I think I heard that name somewhere before. Yeah, it's the hotel where the crime took place. That's the name of the hotel. The Gatewater Hotel. Uh-oh. The murder knife was actually property of the hotel, which means this murder was not premeditated. Yes, that is very true. This is a very big... and I'm dropping shit again. What is it, Mr. Edgeworth? I'm sorry, but the defense is simply too careless. What? I think whether the crime was premeditated or not has already been determined. How so? I admit this knife is hotel property. There's no one currently on the police force that is dumb enough not to realize this. But I didn't know. The question is, where did this knife come from? Why, that's obvious. It came from the victim, Mr. Corrino's room. Sorry, Your Honor, but that is also incorrect. The victim ate his last meal before he was murdered. With that being the case, I would like to draw the court's attention to what is on top of the table. Yep. There's a knife and a fork on the table. Then, where in the world did this knife come from? If it pleases the court, I would like for us to recall the room of the defendant, Mr. Martin Guard. Especially what was on top of his table. 2 plates, 2 forks, 1 knife. There is something missing. Perhaps it is a single knife? We've investigated the leftover dishes for fingerprints while we were investigating. We came to the conclusion that Mr. Martin Guard's knife was the one missing. Yeah, but if the killer was wearing gloves, they could have just taken his knife and used it to stab the victim in order to implicate him. Mr. Angard had gone to the victim's room with the knife he had used during dinner. Why would he carry a knife on a visit? To kill, of course. And with that, I believe the prosecution has proven this was a premeditated murder. Amazing, Mr. Edgeworth. Absolutely brilliant. A brilliantly clear deduction. Seems like Edgeworth had this planned from the very beginning. This must be one of those traps, and I just walked headlong into it. A murder weapon with fingerprints and a button from the victim's costume. There is quite a sizable amount of evidence here. I can safely say that any further deliberation is a waste of your Honor's time. Although, I wouldn't mind if the defense were to present evidence not yet shown to the court. Evidence not yet shown? He means evidence that the court hasn't seen yet. In other words, new evidence. What does the defense have to say about this, Mr. Wright? Well, Phoenix. The judge is favoring the prosecution right now. If we answer with something wrong here, that gavel of his will be ringing out to the sound of our defeat. Mr. Wright, do you have something important and necessary to present to this court? I'm gonna say I do. There's one piece of evidence that catches my attention. Something that this court has yet to see. Mr. Wright, I will say this one more time. I do not feel this trial needs to continue at all. However, I am giving you one chance, and one and only one. What the judge is saying, Mr. Wright, is don't try pulling one of your usual bluffs here. If I mess this up, it's curtained for all of us. You may now present one and only one piece of evidence. Oh wow, all of the bars. Now then, what is this evidence, important evidence that you must show to the court? I want to say it's the camera, but I also want to say the wine glass. Oh, this is a wine glass, is it not? Please look at the photo of the crime scene one more time. The scene is a mess because of the victim's struggle against his assailant. The vase was broken. His makeup's all over the floor. These were all things that were at one point sitting on top of the dresser. Well, yes, I see your point. However, this glass that is sitting on top of the dresser is mysteriously untouched. The only thing that had not fallen over along with everything else is this wine glass. This piece of evidence is more than strange enough to warrant further consideration. Well? What do you all have to say? Oh, well, yes. It is a little peculiar. Yes, isn't it? I thought it was. You can stop looking at me with those puppy dog eyes of yours now. Mr. Edgeworth? What is it, Your Honor? Your opinion? You don't need my opinion. Because there is no special meaning to that glass. What? It's safe to say that the glass was set there after the crime took place. Oh fuck, did I get it wrong? By the person who discovered the body, Adrian Andrews, for example. She could have easily been so shocked that she set the glass down without thinking. No, because you see, if she wouldn't have had the mindset to just put it down on a table, she would have just dropped it and it would have spilled its contents. That does sound very plausible, Mr. Wright. Could Miss Andrews really have set that glass down without thinking? Nope. If I appear weak here, the trial's over. I can look for my proof later. For now, I should trust my instinct and point with certainty. They just might fall for it if you're thought-provoking enough. The defense would like to challenge the prosecution's theory. We would like to see something that proves that it was Miss Andrews who set the cup on the table. You've turned the situation on its head yet again, as usual. Mr. Edgeworth, do you have any proof to back up your claim? There's no way he has any. He's just bluffing. Unlike Mr. Wright, I never say anything unless I have evidence to support it. What? You're not thinking hard enough today, Mr. Wright. Did you think this wine glass escaped my notice? Then... Of course it has been thoroughly inspected for fingerprints. Fingerprints? There were only one set of fingerprints left on this glass. Only one? Then whose were they? They were not the victims nor the defendants. Rather, they were of one Adrian Andrews. What? Found next to the victim, it's filled with tomato juice and bears Andrews' fingerprints. That is why I said that the person who had discovered the body had left it there. Are we done here, Mr. Wright? Ugh! Can't believe I fell into another trap. No, you didn't, because she would have just dropped it. Miss Andrews was probably holding the glass when she went to see Mr. Carida. But upon seeing his dead body, she was stunned and set the glass down on the dresser. Again, she would have simply dropped it. What you just said makes a lot of sense. No, it fucking doesn't. How now do you see, Mr. Wright? You can't change any part of my scenario as it explains everything all too well. I thought long and hard this year about what it means to be a prosecutor. And from here on out, I will show you the answer I have come to discover. But wait a second, Mr. Edgeworth. I think the prosecution has provided enough evidence for me to enter my verdict. Unfortunately, I cannot allow you to pass judgment just yet. The prosecution has yet another witness we would like the court to hear from. Another witness? Yes. Bailiff, please bring in the next witness. Is it Adrian Andrews? What in the world is Mr. Edgeworth thinking? Oh, no. Fuck. It's worse. Now then, witness, please state your name and occupation. Witness, your name and occupation. Ugh!
Hey! Gotcha!
Ugh. I wonder what happened to that calm composure he had earlier.
Oh, Edgy boy! It's been, what, a year since we last met, hasn't it? You should be more happy to see me.
I saw the report with her testimony, but who knew that underneath that helmet? It was the Wicked Witch of the witness stand.
I'll tell you, this time I know what I'm supposed to do. So today, I'm gonna tell you everything and anything. Even things that don't have to do with that terrible crime.
Miss Witness, that terrible crime is all this court needs to know.
Oof. Shush, I'm talking to my dear Edgy Wedgy right now. Don't interrupt us, Gramps.
You have no room to talk. Yes, madame. No, please, by all means, interrupt her. Please. Anyway, witness, your testimony, please.
It's true what they say, that youth are odd-headed nowadays. Not that I mind at all, Edgy. Now then, what should I start with?
The witness was on security detail at the hotel on the night of the murder. Is this correct, Miss Oldbag?
It was a great job being able to see my dearie Juan. It was almost too much for my little heart to handle.
You mean you were a fan of the victim?
Look, everyone's crazy over that young guard, saying he's cute in a fresh way or something. But not me. I wouldn't say anything so silly. After all, I have no interest in a child like him. I'm only interested in a real man, Juan Corrida.
But those two are the same age.
Anyway, as I was saying, I was pasted in front of his room that night.
Very well. Please tell the court what you witnessed the night of the murder.
Leave it to me, Edgy Poo. Anyway, after the ceremony, I went to pace around in the hallway in front of his room. There was something I was interested in finding out, you know. Since I was on the job, I made sure to keep a good eye out the whole time. That's when someone showed up. It was a man coming out of poor Juan's room. It was en garde. Matt en garde. He was trying to sneak his way out of Juan's room.
So Mr. En garde came out from the victim's room.
See, it has to be him. He's the murderer.
I see. Well, Mr. Wright, you may begin your cross-examination. Oh boy.
Anyway, after the ceremony, I went to pace around in the hallway in front of his room.
Miss Oldbag, what was your post on that night?
The lobby. I was supposed to set up the stage for that trifling show. But I refused to help. I'll have you know, it was for that lead-headed samurai show. I even took out a few of the nails.
Maybe it was a good thing the show didn't go on. What a bitch.
Besides, that manager with the glasses seemed to be working hard at it without me. So I thought I'd take a break and spread my wings a little.
And that's when you went to hang around the victim's door.
There was something I was interested in finding out, you know.
Something you were interested in? And just what was that?
It's not some little thing I can just go around telling everybody, you know. It's top secret between me and Juan. And Edgy Poo, of course.
Mr. Edgeworth, what is this thing she was interested in? I have no idea, despite I despise gossip, Your Honor. Gossip? But should it prove relevant, we can always have it appended to her testimony later. Looks like we shouldn't force it right now. And did the witness stay in the vicinity of the victim's door the entire time?
Well, since I was on the job, I made sure to keep a good eye out the whole time.
Oh? Then would you tell us the number of people who went in and out of Mr. Corrida's room?
I have no idea. I wasn't born so I could count things for those who didn't pay attention in class. That's why ever since I turned 20, I quit keeping track of how old I really am.
Wow. Yes, well, that would explain why your age was not indicated in the report. In any case, the witness then saw someone, correct?
That's when someone showed up. It was a man coming out of the poor Juan's room.
Who in the world was that?
I'm not allowed to say. This sort of information has to be carefully guarded from the masses, Sonny. The man that came out of Juan's room, he was... Yes? It was... I'm too scared. I can't say his name out loud.
Oh, what I wouldn't give to have Francisco's whip right about now.
Well, I guess I can tell ya, since he was such a bad boy anyway. It was on guard, man on guard. He was trying to sneak his way out of Juan's room.
You saw my client? Are you sure about that?
Yes, see?
Really?
And knowing Brat, when I say I saw someone, I saw that person.
Why do I get a sense of deja vu? Maybe to avoid a repeat of last year, I should delve into this a bit further. Oh boy. Shit. I'm torn between the person's face and what the person was carrying. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick save. We're going to go with what the person was carrying. What was the man you saw carrying?
In which hand? His right or his left? Now this is a real mess. I mean, I can't be expected to answer such a vague question. How is that fucking vague?
Indeed. Please be more specific with your question, Mr. Wright. Sorry. What was the man you saw carrying in his right hand?
He wasn't carrying anything in hand.
Then how about his left?
Empty.
How is that so fucking vague? Well, this whole thing has been a lot of nothing. So, Mr. Wright, was this testimony just now important or relevant in any way? Actually, it was, because if he was planning on killing him... Of course it was important, Your Honor. Then perhaps you would like to point out what part of that testimony was important? You don't really have to put it that way to get me to say. Mr. Wright, there is something much more valuable than a person's pride. And that is time. Please don't waste this court's precious time with worthless questions. Yes, Your Honor. I think I just wasted his good favor. She may not remember things or be mistaken here and there, but I don't think she's lying. That's bad for us. Really bad. But that's how the human mind is. It also has the tendency to jump off topic. She strayed onto a few interesting side topics this time too, hasn't she? But that's what makes her a sweet old lady, right? I wouldn't say the sweet part. That's because you're not the one who has to question her. Okay, we'll try the person's face this time. Please tell the court about the man's face in more detail.
You don't need me to tell you about his face. That soft, gentle look in his eyes and his effeminate lips. His right eye covered by his silky hair, his sparkling, shiny teeth.
His teeth were shining?
Well, he's shining all around in this week's pinup poster, dearie.
This week's pinup? Why do you... I mean... I don't care how he looks in this week's issue. Please stay with what you saw that night.
What? And Guard's face is the same no matter where it is, you know, you whippersnapper.
So, Mr. Wright, was this testimony just now important or relevant in any way? No. I guess it really wasn't that important after all. Mr. Wright, do you know why we say time is valuable? If not, I suggest you learn.
You've wasted 3 minutes of this woman's youth. That's more valuable than gold to me.
Why do I suddenly feel old in the presence of her childish whining?
She may not remember things or be mistaken here and there, but I don't think she's lying.
That's bad for us, really bad. The clothes probably indicate why she thought it was him, but let's go with that. Please tell the court about the man's clothes in more detail.
What a troublesome man you are, really, as if something like that matters.
But it does.
Now what was it? Oh yes, it was that thing.
What thing?
That gaudy thing he's always wearing, that racing jacket.
Ah, he was wearing that at the detention center too.
That thing's meant for nothing but seducing women out of their pantaloons. Meant.
Right. So, Mr. Wright, was this testimony just now important or relevant in any way? I don't know, actually.
1 minute later.
I'm gonna say it's actually very important. Of course it was important, Your Honor. Then perhaps you would like to point out what part of the testimony was important. Don't you see it, Edgeworth? Oh, that's different. Your Honor, I request what the witness said about the jacket be appended to her testimony. I don't quite see where you're going with this, but all right. Witness, please.
Ah, well, I don't like to badmouth anyone without a reason, but if I must... He was wearing this flashy red racing jacket. Honestly, it's all just for show.
Okay.
A few moments later.
If it was found in the hakama, he would have been wearing the hakama. But instead he was wearing the flashy jacket. So then, couldn't have been. Miss Oldbag.
What? Don't say my name for no reason.
Do you know what this is?
Ah, it's button number 2 on the Jammin' Ninja's costume.
Now I know she's an obsessed fan. She identified it in a single glance.
Give it here! Give it here! If you don't give it to me, I'll punish you with this!
Wow. She really is a diehard fan and want a button covered in blood. This button was discovered on Mr. On Guard's body during a full body search.
See? This button proves beyond a shadow of a doubt it was that rascal in Guard.
It was caught up in the pleats of his nickel samurai hakama pants.
See? And on Guard is the nickel samurai.
Witness. Now, it may just be me, and I do have an active imagination. But just now, didn't you say that the defendant, man on guard, was wearing his usual racing jacket? Yep.
Ah, I'm so sorry. Sorry that you judge people based on what they wear. If I wore the trendiest dress, then maybe, but instead I have to put it with this ridiculous costume. This outfit is hideous, right? I got duct tape cornered. It's heavy, so heavy, I wish I could have switched to the DVD seat. Dream a lot for all those kids, understand? Now take a look in the mirror. Your clothes are a documentary on curling. You should take a chip from...
Now hold your tongue still there for 1 second. So what you saw in actuality was not Mr. Enguarde the man, but Mr. Enguarde the Nickel Samurai?
But when you think about it,
Nope.
they're really one and the same anyway.
Miss Oldbag, this is a very important point we're talking about here.
Edgy Poo, do you think so too?
Well, it might be something worth considering. Just say it's important and agree with me for a change. Witness, think carefully and try to remember as much as you can before you testify.
All right, if you insist.
I should be the one sighing, not you.
On guard! On guard! Yes, now I remember. The Nickel Samurai, that's right. It was the Nickel Samurai that I saw. Yes, it would have been convenient for him to wear his costume during the murder. He had to go to that post-ceremony stage show right after the crime, you know. So he must have worn that Nickel Samurai costume when he was stabbing poor Juan.
And yet he emerged with the racing jacket? I knew it. I knew you'd say he was inside that costume.
What? Did you think there could have been someone else inside that costume?
Yep.
Don't be a bad little boy thinking such rude things.
But the possibility does exist here.
Ah, youngins today, I told you there's no way it was anyone else.
Well, how do you know that?
Because I said so, and what I say is the truth.
No, it does not work that way. At least she's just as delightful a witness as she was a year ago. Mr. Wright, you may cross-examine the witness.
On guard, on guard. Yes, now I remember. The Nickel Samurai, that's right, it was the Nickel Samurai that I saw.
Be a little more careful with your testimony, please. Not too long ago, you said he was wearing his racing jacket, and now he's not.
Not too long ago. Then let me ask you this. When you were itty-bitty, what was your grand dream?
Huh?
What did you want to be when you grew up, whippersnapper?
That's off topic. My dream, huh? Well, I, wanted to be Judge Wagner, hero of the public court. So what?
See? And look at where you are now. You're not Judge Wagner, are ya? Are ya?
What does that have to do with anything?
What I said earlier. Who puts any thought into weight into things like that?
When you're testifying, we do.
The now is everything. I can't be held responsible for the past.
Since when did court become theatrics over testimonies?
All that matters is that man was inside that costume. Isn't that enough?
Yes, it would have been. Oh, I got an achievement for that.
Yes, it would have been convenient for him to wear his costume during the murder.
And why would that be?
That way, no one can see his face, of course.
But there's still no advantage for him that I can see. In fact, you would think the costume would make him stand out all the more.
You are such an annoying child. You know that? You disagree with everything I say.
Well, because what you say is nonsense. Isn't that what you're always doing to me?
I got it. Maybe it was more troublesome for him to change in and out of his costume. He had to go to that post-ceremony stage show right after the crime, you know.
Was there anyone else scheduled to appear at the post-ceremony show?
Well, all the contestants were supposed to go on stage in a friendly gesture thing.
And that included the Jammin' Ninja.
Of course it included him. That's why when Enguarde came out of dear Juan's room, I didn't give it a second thought.
I see.
Well, anyway. So he must have worn that nickel samurai costume when he was stabbing poor Juan.
So let me ask you one last time. The person you saw, it really was the Nickel Samurai.
As showy as ever. Haven't I been saying that from the very beginning? Can I throw in the towel yet? You don't need to think too hard on this one. Huh? There's a contradiction in her testimony, and it's sitting in plain sight. The question is what that contradiction means for us. Well, I have to figure out what you're talking about first, but okay.
A few moments later.
Okay, so when he stabbed him, wouldn't he have gotten blood on the costume? Please take a look at this.
Yeah, so it's a knife. Big deal. If you're trying to scare me with that, I'll have you know it won't work.
No, that's not my intention at all. That's the knife that was used in the murder, correct? Your Honor, do you know why this piece of evidence is important to this case? You don't even have to ask. It's because the defendant's fingerprints are on it. But if he was in costume, he would have been wearing gloves, which means his fingerprints wouldn't have been on it at all. Is that what you're driving at? That is exactly what I am driving at. What are we driving? And whose car are we driving? If Mr. Angard was really in the Nickel Samurai costume at the time of the murder, then it's impossible for his fingerprints to have been left on this knife. Actually, he would have wiped all previous fingerprints off on this knife right off. Oh, that's right! The Nickel Samurai wears gloves, doesn't he? He probably took his gloves off before he began the stabbing. Why would he do that, though? And why would he do something like that? To leave his prints on the murder weapon? There's no way he would do something like that. However, there is one possibility. Then let's hear your possibility. It's very simple. The defendant went to the victim's room while in costume as the Nickel Samurai. At that time, the defendant held no intent to murder. He was probably just going to relax and talk with the victim about the stage show, while carrying the fucking knife?
No.
Yeah.
Which is why he took his gloves off. Well, the murder still did take place. It's well known that there was bad blood between the defendant and the victim. Yes, well, I have heard that before. Well, Mr. Wright, what do you have to say about Mr. Edgeworth's theory? Makes no sense. So let me get this straight. Edgeworth's theory goes like this. When the defendant went to the victim's room, he had no intention of killing him. Now, up to this point, are there any problems with this theory? There's a contradiction. This theory contradicts something in an earlier testimony. What are you babbling about? Now, for argument's sake, let's suppose Mr. Angard was the killer. If that's the case, I think it's impossible for the killer to have gone to the victim's room without intent. Because the murder weapon was not taken from the victim's room. This knife. This was used by Mr. Angard at dinner. Yes, we did establish that. Which means that if my client was in fact the killer, then he brought this knife with him when he went to visit Mr. Kurita. I suppose. However, you just said it yourself. At that time, the defendant held no intent to murder. If that were true, then why would he bring a knife? He wouldn't, would he? Which means, Mr. Edgeworth, your theory was flawed from supposition 1. And one more thing. If the murderer was wearing the costume at the time of the murder, then there should be glove marks left on the knife. Which means the defendant's fingerprints shouldn't have been all over it like bees on a hive. And that brings me to my final point. This knife was planted by the real killer to hide their identity and to mislead us. Order! Order, I say! Order in the court! Was this knife really planted by the killer? Why would the murderer do such a thing?
To frame on guard. But also to hide the... Yeah. No, never mind. It's to frame on guard. Because if it was just merely to hide the murder method, then they wouldn't have cared about picking a stooge. It's to frame my client, Mr. On Guard, of course.
To frame?
Aren't you forcing the interpretation just a little too hard on this one? But we just established that the witness saw the nickel samurai in costume. And if that were true, then there shouldn't be a single fingerprint on this knife. Witness? Looks like I made your life a tiny bit more difficult, huh, Edgy Poo?
Witness, did you or did you not really see the nickel samurai?
Well, I guess at first I might have forgotten, but... Are you saying you mixed up Mr. On Guard with the nickel samurai, his character on TV?
This wouldn't be the first time she did this either.
But I mean, I can't really do anything about that now. Look, I was waiting around in front of their doors because, well, I wasn't waiting around for the nickel samurai, that's for sure.
She wasn't waiting for the nickel samurai? Alright then. Who were you waiting around for?
That's top secret to anyone outside of security.
I have a feeling that you were waiting for Mr. Juan Corrida. Am I correct, witness?
The way you think, you are a sad amateur with a terrible case of nearsightedness.
Amateur? Me? What am I an amateur at? So, Old Bag was waiting around in front of the victim's room. But it doesn't sound like she was waiting to catch a glimpse of Mr. Corrida.
Maybe. Phoenix, maybe the Old Bag was waiting around for that person.
If it's who I think Mia's hinting at, it's certainly a possibility. Miss Old Bag, you were waiting for this person to come out of the victim's room, weren't you? I'm going to guess and say it's Adrian Andrews. Oops. Who's this person? This is Adrian Andrews, Mr. On Guard's manager. But why would the defendant's manager be in the victim's room? It seems that this is the latest rumor in circulation, Your Honor. Oh! This is... Ah! I see. The judge seems to be really into that article. If it can be called such a thing. Then this manager with the initials A&A, are you saying that it's...
Adrian Andrews, without a doubt, the witness thought so as well. Looks like you found me out. Well, that's fine. I can throw away this whole sworn to confidentiality stuff then.
Well, witness? What in the world are you...
Watch out, Phoenix. I've got a bad feeling about this. A very bad feeling. I got some information. Some very secret information from a certain source. So that's why I was doing my own little investigation. In secret, of course.
Oh God, don't tell me she was working with Lotta. But what for?
Oh, just for myself. Personal reasons and all that.
Well, Mr. Edgeworth, how will you proceed from here?
I really don't want to do this. However, I cannot simply let this point slide.
I see. Well, very well then. Witness, please testify about this secret information.
Get ready! This is gonna take the wind out of you youngins. I'm sure we're all capable of handling this. Really, it's not like we're 10 years old. This down guard is one evil man. He He thought he could ruin poor Juan by causing a huge scandal. So to do that, he sent his own manager to get in close with Juan. I cannot condone such dirty tricks, so I took action. Oh, and this is top secret. You got that? Nobody else but you and me know that. Okay?
The defendant sent his manager? What a distasteful topic for this court.
What? Nobody's above gossip. And isn't there a saying? The truth is never pleasant?
Never heard that one before. Mr. Edgeworth, what about this Adrian Andrews person?
We have looked into this matter and found that the truth to the article proposes is in fact baseless gossip.
But should this be true, then this proves that the defendant did bear ill will towards the victim.
So this means I have to smash this rumor once and for all.
Now then, Mr. Wright, you may cross-examine the witness.
Be careful. The old bag seems rather excited right now. That's right. Angard is nothing but your average foul-blooded youth.
Well, as the old saying goes, gotta burn old bags with fire. Time to fire up the afterburners and hit the highway to the danger zone.
Dude, what the fuck was that? That Angard is one evil man.
You can't say something like that without proof. That's just slander.
But it's true. That woman is getting intimate with poor Juan. Look, it says so right here, doesn't it? Manager to the stars, Miss AA.
But the name of the art magazine this came from is Gossipland.
What? Are you saying that gossip's all just a pack of lies?
What do you know?
I suppose next you'll swear to me that the news is 100% true.
Honestly, Sonny,
you can't discriminate between the news and gossip.
Yeah, you can. Gossip is, generally spread without proof. And while the news is most definitely not 100% accurate at times, they have to do research before posting a story. Unless you're Fox News. Oh, sorry. Did I say that out loud? Yes, discrimination is bad, Mr. Wright.
Discriminate? When did I do anything like that? Anyway, Angard will never get me to say touche. He thought he could ruin poor Juan by causing a huge scandal.
A scandal? What do you mean by that?
You're a dim-witted one, aren't you? Can't believe you don't know what a scandal is.
Oh, I know what a scandal is, but we're asking which scandal.
Honestly, what are they teaching kids in middle school these days?
No, I wasn't asking the word scandal means. Even I know that much.
Well, that Angard thought he could own a monopoly on popularity. So to do that, he sent his own manager to get in close with Juan.
You don't have any proof that Mr. Angard did any such thing.
You must be suffering from shock. The shock of hearing the truth. And now, since you're in so much shock, you can't get anything right.
You're right. I can't do anything, but boy, do I wish I could do something about you.
All right then, Sonny. Show me what you got. Can you show me proof that Angard didn't bear any ill will towards Juan?
You know what? I'm gonna decline. I don't have anything to offer.
See? Just as I thought. And you were lecturing me about saying things without proof. You've just given me a free pass to say whatever I want whenever I want, silly boy.
Me and my big mouth.
That's the way the cookie crumbles. For you, anyway. I cannot condone such dirty tricks, so I took action.
So, what do you mean I took action?
Like I already told you, I was lying in wait close to the crime scene. Once that slimy woman came out of Juan's room, I was gonna capture her and teach her a good lesson, something you youngins need.
You were going to teach her a good lesson?
I was gonna make her eat the damaging beams of my ray gun. Like this.
No, stop!
Well, it was too bad that the woman didn't come through the door that night. Oh, and this is top secret, you hear that? Nobody else but you and me know yet, okay?
I'm pretty sure someone else knows. Oh, shit. I guess not. How exactly are the evidence of the statements just now related?
They're not, fuck. They aren't, are they?
Not at all. Mr. Wright, please think the facts over before making accusations.
Okay, fine, we will press instead.
Wait!
What? I'm a busy woman. Tea time with the kids is over.
Secret information that no one else knows yet. If that's true, then how do you know the secret information?
Huh? Well, that's because I'm a pro. Yes, that's it. It's a secret. Even if you drill the hole into my brain, you'll never find out.
How in the world did that old bat get such a secret piece of information? You know what? I think I know. So no one else is supposed to know the secret information, correct? If that's true, then why do you know it, Miss Old Bag?
Well, why are you looking at me like that? Stop that!
Witness. I hate to say it, but this is how you came to acquire secret info. I mean, Lotta did say her camera went missing. The investigative photographer, Lotta Hart. Oh yes, I remember that mischievous girl. She reported that she had lost a certain note she had written to herself. She reported such a thing. On that piece of paper, she had written down some of her impressions about the relationship between the victim and Miss Andrews.
Well, what? Outrageous ideas, you say?
No, I said impressions.
Then everything written on this piece of paper is completely meaningless?
Ah, that's it. That's the note. Welp.
No, you see, this is something completely different. This is my top secret list of groceries to buy.
No. Then you are the one who took Miss Hart's note.
I'm a huge fan of Juan's, that's right. That infamous puffy-haired whippersnapper. She's working with that evil on guard. She said so herself. On guard, I'm his sidekick. She was so happy, smiling like a silly duck. I was only checking what she'd written.
No one buys her shit.
That you do? You believe me, don't you?
Ugh.
I was only trying to help out like an angel I am. That's only one little piece of paper. I've never taken anything else before.
You really should come with a supply of cheese to match your vintage wine.
Damn!
I see what you did there. Well, it was only a piece of paper. I suppose we can overlook this just this once. She looks like she's really sorry. Should I forgive her? Nah. If I let up on her now, she'll get away. I have to find some way to inflict a deafening blow to the prosecution. Witness, you said that the only thing you stole was that note. Is this correct?
Stole? Why don't you listen more carefully, you annoying brat? I saved this piece of paper from the terrible, lonely trash can, that's all.
You're lying, damn it, and I can prove it.
Are you putting my credibility under scrutiny again?
Oh, this old bag? I don't believe that the note is the only thing you stole that night. Miss Oldbag, that note was with a camera inside of its case, wasn't it? A camera? Yesterday, Lotta Hart was raising a huge stink over her camera. She kept saying something like, "My sweetie $1,600 camera disappeared on me." Why? Why? Witness!
What is it, Gramps?
If you have the note, then it is only logical that you have the camera, too.
Looks like you found me out again, Sonny. Is this the camera you're looking for?
That's...
What? Even though I look like this, I'm still a person, you know. I still eat meals like you, I still fall in love, and I borrow things from people without asking.
I think your definition of borrow is a little off.
I saw that woman's business card, and that's when I noticed it. Said, "Slime bag celebrity photographer extraordinaire." Well, when I saw that, I had to know what sort of picture she'd taken. I'm a professional security guard. It's my business to know these things.
Bailiff, check the camera's photos. Hurry. We must examine them at once. Well, Mr. Edgeworth, what do we have?
There is only one photo that seems to be relevant to this case.
Please present it to the court. This is the Nickel Samurai! Yeah, I'm getting flashbacks from the third case in the first game.
See, I told you! That's the guy I saw!
This proves that the witness was not lying earlier about this matter.
Picture taken in the hallway right after the murder.
Well, what does all this mean, Mr. Edgeworth?
This photo by itself does not prove that the person in it is the defendant. However, in his own confession, Mr. Ungard clearly stated that at the time of the murder, he was still in his Nickel Samurai costume.
If that's the case, then this Nickel Samurai is...
the defendant.
Well, shit. How did it come to this? I think this brings us to the end. We've examined every piece of evidence thoroughly. Final comments, Mr. Wright? The court will consider them before we close. Do you agree that this photo is decisive evidence against your client?
This photo really is decisive, then we are done for. But if I raise an objection here and blow it, then I would put Maya's life in jeopardy. Can't make a mistake here. There's only one road out of this mess. This photo that Lotta took, there's something strange, actually. It's the same reason why the samurai picture was strange. There's something strange with this photo. I knew this was coming, right?
Your thoughts, Mr. Edgeworth?
I think we can all agree there's nothing strange with this photo. There's no way for the defense to debunk this photo, even with a bunker buster.
Debunk with a bunker buster? Is that what you're planning to do, Mr. Wright?
Anyway, please look at the photo one more time.
If you really believe you can honestly find something wrong with this photo, then you should only need one chance, correct?
Well, I have to find something wrong with this photo. I can't let this chance go by. Where in the hell did she take this photo from anyway? It's all out of focus. Why can't she take a good shot, especially when it counts?
Now then, let's hear your objection. What about this photo is strange?
The pants. I would like to direct the court's attention to this one area right here.
Well, what are you pointing to? His ankles?
If you could see this person's ankles, that'd be one thing. However, you can't.
And? What does that mean?
The costumed person in this photo could not have been Mr. On Guard. They're too short.
What is the meaning of this?
I wonder if you would care to elaborate, with actual facts, that is.
Let's take a look at the Nickel Samurai's poster.
Please pay particular attention to the area around the bottom of the hakama.
His socks! You can see his socks!
Exactly. However, in this photo, the Nickel Samurai is clearly holding his hakama up just to walk. There is only one explanation for this. The person inside this costume is clearly much shorter than the defendant. Alright, I think I've turned things around for myself this time. That's curious.
Huh? What is it?
Edgeworth is unusually calm today.
That is true.
He's just letting the trial run itself. As if he's only along for the ride. Meaning he might actually know the truth.
Along for the ride?
What do you mean by that? I can only guess that perhaps he doesn't feel under attack at all.
He doesn't feel under attack?
Then I haven't damaged his case at all?
Mr. Edgeworth, where does this leave us? If the person in this photo is not man on guard, then everything the prosecution has tried to prove has become meaningless.
I figured it would come to this.
What?
Right. I have something I want to ask you. I think you've proven that the person inside this costume is not Mat on Guard. In that case, here is this a photo of.
Who's the person wearing the Nickel Samurai costume?
Don't stress out over this, Phoenix. It's very simple. What you should be focused on is Edgeworth's attitude, don't you think?
Yeah.
Why is he so calm?
Mr. Wright, let's hear your thoughts. Who is the person in this photograph?
Hello.
Adrian Andrews.
If you want to know who that Nickel Samurai is, it is none other than this woman. And why would you say it must be Miss Andrews? What in the world points you to her? For starters, she's short. And she can freely move in and out of Mr. On Guard's room. Finally, she had dinner with Mr. On Guard that night.
And how does that all add up?
It means that it makes it very easy for her to get a certain item. A certain knife with Mr. On Guard's fingerprints all over it.
The knife that was used as a murder weapon.
Why don't you just say what it is you want, Mr. Wright? I have to do this now. This is my last chance to turn things around. The defense moves to indict Miss Adrian Andrews in the murder of Juan Corrida. It was Miss Andrews who tried to frame the defendant for the murder.
Order! 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 It looks like this trial has hit a most unexpected development. Mr. Edgeworth?
Yes, Your Honor.
This court is issuing a subpoena for Miss Adrian Andrews. A verdict cannot be passed without first hearing her testimony.
All right. This is it. This is kind of bad for us.
Huh?
Wait, what do you mean? If Adrian Andrews is summoned to court as a witness, it means that the trial will go on for another day.
Oh, fuck.
One more day? Ah! If I don't get a verdict today, then Maya...
Now then, we shall set Miss Andrews' testimony for tomorrow.
What am I supposed to do? The judge is about to adjourn the court.
Fuck. Now then. Please, Your Honor, continue the trial. You must pass a verdict today. I can't do that. We cannot hear Miss Andrews' testimony if she's not. I abhor wasting such valuable time. Edgeworth? He knows. Your Honor, I request that you please continue with today's trial. But what? We cannot continue due to this unexpected development. Unexpected development? I think you underestimate me, Your Honor. And what do you mean by that? That Mr. Phoenix Wright would slave his way to subpoenaing Miss Adrian Andrews is all happening according to plan. Even if Mr. Wright was a bit slow to catch on. What? Yeah, he's in on it, he knows. What is the meaning of your statement, Mr. Edgeworth? Miss Adrian Andrews is currently waiting in the prosecution's lobby. She is the next witness. Everything was planned out in advance by that man? I bet you anything that Gumshoe told him. Because he's the only other person that knew about the kidnapping. Somehow, I knew there was no way Edgeworth would overlook Miss Andrews. Looks like this battle is far from over. Exactly. Very well. We will call the next witness. However, before we proceed, we shall take a 10-minute recess. Please prepare your witness in that time, Mr. Edgeworth. The court will now take a 10-minute recess. And to be continued. March 22nd, 2:14 p.m. District Court, Defendant Lobby Number 3. My dude! Can't believe that Adrian. No way, man. Not cool and collected Adrian Andrews. She's your manager. It would have been very easy for her to pull this off. The only person who had easy access to the knife you used at dinner was, well, her. So after the ceremony, during the break, huh? I was sleeping like a log the entire time, man. See? She could have also easily planted that blood-covered button on your hakama. Because she was the one who came to wake me up? Then, my dude, you saying it really was her? Yes, she's the real killer. She was the one who murdered Juan Corrida. But why? I thought she was buds with Juan. She has her own agenda. Her own agenda? What are you talking about? I'm sure you'll see by the time this trial's over. It'll be alright. I'll get you acquitted by the end of the day. Give me a verdict that's refreshing like a spring breeze, okay, Mr. Lawyer Dude? Phoenix. You think her motive is related to Celeste and Max's missing suicide note, right? Yes. Miss Andrews depended on Miss Impacts as her strength and reason to live. But when Miss Impacts suddenly killed herself, sounds like she left a suicide note, and the person thought to have hidden it is Juan Corrida, the victim of this murder. And that's why I think Miss Andrews got close to Mr. Corrida. All to get the suicide note back. That sounds plausible. But one thing bothers me. What exactly bothers you? Who was it that first told us about the relationship? Better stated, Miss Andrews' dependency issues with regards to Miss Impacts. It was Edgeworth. Edgeworth's the one who told us all of that. It was Edgeworth. Looks like he's still the one in command of this ship. Don't let your guard down just yet. March 22nd, 2:25 p.m. District Court, courtroom number 3. Court will now reconvene. Now then, Mr. Edgeworth, if you'll please. The prosecution calls the witness subpoenaed by this court. Miss Adrian Andrews, the person who discovered the crimes in Mr. Juan Corrida's room. What is your occupation? I am the manager of the defendant in this case, Mr. Matt Ungard. I see. Now then. Before we begin, Your Honor, I have one request. Yes? Sure. What is it? I'm sure everyone in this room is wondering the same thing, and would love to find out more about my relationship with the victim. After all, it was the topic of a certain weekly magazine recently. No, I have no idea what you mean. I've never even heard of Gossip Land. You just played yourself.
You fucking idiot!
If the judge was ever a prosecution witness, he'd do all my work for me. Anyway, I was wondering if you could please tell us about your relation to the victim. Yes, I was seeing Mr. Corrida. I was also aware of the rivalry that existed between Matt and Juan. But this was a private matter between Juan and myself. So it was a fry and bait matter, or was that bait and fry? Reminds me of fishing. But I didn't kill him. No one is accusing you of that. I am. I think there's someone who would beg to differ. I think we all understand your relationship with the victim now, Miss Andrews. Very well then. Witness, please testify to the court about what happened when you discovered the murder that had taken place. Here we go. It was time for the show to start, so I went to get Matt from his room. After that, I went to Juan's room. And there was his dead body. I was in shock. What I saw was, naturally, the exact same scene as the crime scene photo. Felt as though I was about to faint, so I poured myself a glass of juice. Really? You poured yourself a glass of juice? Yes, sadly. I didn't remember not to touch anything at the crime scene. And I disturbed the crime scene by moving this one thing. And that is when the fingerprints on the wine glass were made, Your Honor. I see. Well, Mr. Wright, you may cross-examine the witness. Phoenix. She is one cool and collected customer, and she has the brains to match. Yeah, I know. In order to catch a person like her, you have to avoid head-on confrontations. You should disrupt her pacing. Disrupt her pacing? By pressing her to death. She's the type of person who's easily thrown off by things inconsistent with her own thinking. So you have to attack when she least expects it. The instant you let up on your offensive is the instant that this trial is over. Understand? It was time for the show to start, so I went to get Matt from his room. And what was Mr. Ungard doing at the time? He was taking a nap. He was worn out from his mini performance as the Nickel Samurai during the ceremony. Mr. Ungard did say he was taking a nap. Then I guess you could say it could not have been taken out of his room. Yes? Excuse me? It? What are you... Mr. Rice, I thought years at school would have taught you how to construct a sentence. If you can't make a sensible sentence with a subject, then I'll make one for you. Watch. Did you, Miss Andrews, remove Mr. Engarde's knife from his room? No. Subject, verb, object, Mr. Wright. Did you skip basic grammar? The witness may continue. I thought he was going to talk about the costume. After that, I went to Juan's room. And why did you do that? As a friendly gesture, Juan was to make an appearance with the other heroes. So the show was supposed to be a show of friendship, huh? Is that the only reason? I beg your pardon. What are you implying? You had a certain goal in mind when you started to get close to him, correct? So perhaps you had a more personal matter to discuss with the victim. Sorry, but I didn't have any such intentions in mind at the time. Can't get her to talk without a strong piece of evidence, I guess. May we continue now? Witness, what did you see when you got to his room? And there was his dead body. I was in shock. You were in shock. What? Was I not supposed to be? Miss Andrews is a very calculating person. And despite how close they were, I doubt she had romantic feelings for Mr. Kurita. Anyone randomly stumbling upon a dead body would be in shock. And you can't seriously expect that a young beauty like her would not be shocked. Somehow, I don't think beauty has anything to do with being shocked or not. I see. What I saw was, naturally, the exact same scene as the crime scene photo. This is the photo you're referring to, correct? Yes, the one with the knife lodged in his chest. And the guitar case was like this too. Yes, it was open and empty, of course. And then, what did you do next, witness? I felt as though I was about to faint, so I poured myself a glass of juice. Really? Juice? Yes, there was a bottle of tomato juice on the table, so I helped myself. But you didn't drink any of it, did you? Huh? There were no lip marks left on this wine glass to suggest that anyone drank from it. I wasn't feeling terribly great, so I set the glass down. Without drinking it. Uh-huh. Miss Andrews, I would like to confirm with you one more time. When you discovered the dead body of Juan Kurita, you were in great shock. And that's when you poured yourself a glass of juice, correct? And what of it? My mind really was a complete blank at the time. Your mind was a complete blank. I didn't think that was possible for you. Aren't you rude today? I was so dazed that I made one careless mistake, that's all. What one thing? Never mind. It's no big deal. What was she starting to say just now? Miss Andrews, I'm convinced that, as you said, you made a mistake at the scene of the crime. What I really want to know is what this mistake was. Actually, so would I. I'm sorry, it's kind of embarrassing. When I set the glass down on the dresser, I accidentally knocked the flower vase over.
Flower vase? Are you talking about the one on the floor in the crime scene? This mess of glass shards.
It was originally on top of the dresser, but when I bumped into it with my elbow, it fell onto the guitar case.
Why did you withhold such an important piece of information?
I'm sorry. I thought that since the crime scene was already in disarray, that people would simply assume that the vase was just another part of the mess. Uh-huh.
and you see her sweating. On top of that, if it dropped onto the case, you would think that it would have closed it.
Looks like yet another fact has come to light here. Please add this and anything else you have to reveal into your testimony.
I'm sorry, but I have nothing more to add. I didn't touch anything else.
And he thinks that she's a liar.
I was the one who knocked the flower vase over where it fell onto the guitar case.
No, it didn't. You testified that you knocked the flower vase over. Is this correct?
Yes.
And are you sure it fell onto the guitar case?
Is there some problem with that, what I said?
It's not some problem. It's a major problem. It's true that the top of the guitar case was wet with water. However, that's exactly what is so strange. Miss Andrews, you testified that the vase fell onto the guitar case. However, if that's true, the case should have gotten wet on the inside, not the outside. That's very true. Furthermore, there is one other strange thing about this guitar case. And that is? Let's take another look at the crime scene photo. The remains of the vase are scattered on the floor. And what's wrong with that? Nothing's in the case. If the guitar case was open when the vase fell, the glass shards should be inside, not outside the case. Ah!
What is your point, Wright? What, that the case was closed at the time the vase was knocked over? Is that all?
No. Think back to what Miss Andrews testified to. She said that other than the vase, she didn't touch anything else. Yes, that's right. She did implicitly say that she didn't touch the guitar case. But this whole matter with the guitar case is a dead end. The bright red guitar was found at the studio. It has no bearing on this case at all. Does it, though? That may very well be. However, the empty guitar case does seem to have no relation to this case, doesn't it? It seems that there is no deeper meaning to the guitar case. Well, Mr. Wright, do you think we need to hear more details about the guitar case? Yep. The empty guitar case. I believe this is a crucial piece of evidence. I can't believe anyone would reach for straws like this, but it is you. Can't believe I'm doing this either. Alright, I'll follow along. For now. Miss Andrews, please testify to the court about the guitar case.
Yes, Your Honor. I don't remember too clearly because I was a bit dazed. I suppose I must have opened the guitar case after I knocked the vase over. It's not a big deal though, right? The case was empty after all. As for why I opened the case, well, even I don't know.
Looks like this really wasn't a very important point.
This wastefulness is such a familiar feeling by now that it's almost comforting.
Anyway, I'll just go ahead and start the cross-examination. Using anyway to change the topic, a convenient escape for a weak man. He's gonna do it later. It's gonna be funny.
I don't remember too clearly because I was a bit dazed. I suppose it must have opened the guitar case after I knocked the vase over.
Did you though?
I don't think you did.
There's no way you were the one who opened the guitar case.
Why would you say that? It's elementary, my dear. Because the only fingerprints on this case are those of the victim. Ah!
What is it, Miss Andrews?
You shouldn't assume that I must have left prints just because I touched the case.
What do you mean?
What if I were to tell you that I was wearing gloves at the time?
Gloves? But why would you be wearing gloves at that time?
It was the night of the award ceremony, so of course I dressed up for the occasion. Yes, now I remember. I'm almost sure I was wearing a pair of thin gloves.
I see. Well, Mr. Wright, it seems the witness was wearing gloves at the scene of the crime.
You were wearing gloves? Isn't that a little strange? Why is that strange? Do you have something that would prove I was not wearing gloves at the scene?
Yeah?
That very, very strange juice. I have your proof right here. This wine glass. The wine glass? You left your fingerprints very clearly on this wine glass. Ah! And she sweats again. Even if you took your gloves off while you poured yourself this glass of juice, wouldn't you think it was just a little strange? That you put your gloves back on just to open the guitar case? Ah! Did she just break her glasses and replace them with a new pair? What the fuck?
Order! Order! Order!
Looks like you hit the nail on the head this time. What do you mean? I believe that guitar case plays a very important role here. But it's just an empty case. I wonder if it really was empty, though.
But the guitar, the bright red guitar was at the studio.
And she could have potentially taken it back to the studio, which is when they found it and realized that the case was a non-issue. Phoenix, drop all of your presumptions. What was in the guitar case was not the bright red guitar. Oh, okay, not. You don't mean it was a bright white guitar? Wait, no, that's not right either.
I admit it would be unnatural for someone to do that. So the witness was not wearing gloves, despite the fact that on the case...
Your Honor, this is obviously the defense's usual misdirection tactic at work. Steer the court towards an unrelated topic and lull us all into his misguided... No, Your Honor. Please recall that Miss Andrews had testified that the vase fell onto the guitar case, which means that the case was closed when the crime took place. However, it is wide open in this photo of the crime scene. I am sure this guitar case has some relation to the murder. If you are so sure, Wright, then I'm sure you can somehow substantiate your outrageous claim, correct? Please enlighten us as to why that guitar case has anything at all to do with this murder.
Can you do that, Mr. Wright?
Well? Let's suppose for a second that the bright red guitar was not the only thing that could have been in the case.
The bright red guitar not being the only thing? You don't mean to suggest that a bright black guitar...
So you intend to push your theory that the case was not empty. Is that it, Mr. Wright?
I wouldn't say something I didn't intend to prove.
Deflate that head of yours. You haven't proven anything yet. Now then, let's have it. What was inside this case at the time of the murder?
That's a good question, actually.
Eventually.
This? This is a photograph.
Yes, but what is important is what is on that picture, Your Honor. It was the costume. The costume was in the case. Why was the costume in the case?
In this picture?
Doesn't take a genius to see what I mean. What I'm proposing is, inside the guitar case was the Nickel Samurai, the hero's very own costume.
Oh, what? Mr. Wright, explain yourself.
Right? Are you saying that the witness opened the guitar case to take out a costume? What insane point would there be to doing something like that? That insane point would be to wear the costume, of course. Miss Andrews put it on to hide her identity so she could make her escape. After all, you couldn't let anyone see you leave, could you, Miss Andrews? I refuse to accept your theory. Do you have anything to support such a preposterous idea? Just outside the door was an investigative photographer who was starving for a big scoop. And in the end, she managed to get this shot, correct?
You mean this photo? Order! Order! Looks like we've wandered into quite another mess again, haven't we?
Nice job, Phoenix. Well, you know my strategy. Speak first, think later.
So the real murderer was hiding inside a costume.
Wait 1 second, Your Honor. The Nickel Samurai's costume would have been Mr. Matt and God's. Why would something of the defendant's be in the victim's room? And inside the guitar case, of all places?
True. That is a little baffling. Mr. Wright, the court would like to hear your thoughts.
Simple, there's a spare outfit.
What was this Nickel Samurai costume doing inside of the guitar case?
Mr. Unkard did not take his costume off during the break period. In that case, the costume we were talking about was a spare one.
What? Then, are you saying that on the night of the murder, there were 2 Nickel Samurai costumes at the Gatewater Hotel?
Yes, that is exactly what I am saying.
And how do you explain the costume that was inside of the guitar case?
It would mean that the victim himself had brought this spare to the ceremony on purpose.
But why?
Was he planning on, like, stealing his thunder and dressing up as the Nickel Samurai?
The victim, Mr. Corrida, was the German ninja. Why would he secretly bring the Nickel Samurai's spare costume with him? What could be the reason behind such a peculiar act?
And therein lies the sticking point.
What are you mumbling to yourself about now?
Have you just been rambling all this time without any sense of inner monologue?
Huh?
No, I just...
Mr. Wright, please explain yourself. Why do you think the victim had the Nickel Samurai spare costume?
Phoenix, are you sure you can explain this one? Think carefully before you answer. And then answer with gusto. I believe in you.
Alright. This is what I think.
The reason the victim brought the Nickel Samurai spare costume to the hotel was... Seems like the Nickel Samurai is about to confess something after the post-ceremony stage show. I wonder if that had anything to do with it.
What is this?
On the night of the murder, after the stage show, the Nickel Samurai was going to hold a special press conference.
A press conference?
Yes. The Nickel Samurai was supposed to confess something at this conference. I heard about this as well. For once, you're not making something up, right? But what struck me as weird
was that Mr. Engard himself said he had no idea he was supposed to be holding a press conference that night. Yeah, he was going to switch places. But how can that be? The way I see it, that can only mean one thing. The conference was set up by none other than the victim, Mr. Juan Corrida himself. The victim? Yes. The spare nickel samurai costume was prepared for that very conference. Mr. Corrida was going to hold the press conference as the nickel samurai. He was going to dress up as the nickel samurai and hold a conference? But why would the victim do such a thing? That's a very good question. I want to know what this announcement was going to be. That's something I don't quite know yet. However, what I am concerned with right now is what he intended to reveal at that conference. The nickel samurai was going to confess something. And by confess, I'd wager he was going to reveal something about himself. Which means that Juan Corrida, posing as the nickel samurai, was going to speak about Matt Engard. Yes, I guess that is what it would mean. But if that's the case, that's not a confession, that's public disclosure. Miss Andrews? I can see why you're pros at what you do. Pardon me? Yes, just as you say. The press conference was set up by Juan. Miss Andrews, please offer us an explanation for this. I was the one he asked to help set it up. And the person who prepared the second costume for him, that was also me. You? Juan had bet everything on the Jamming Ninja this year. And if he lost the Grand Prix, he was going to make sure Matt was going down with him. That's what he thought, anyway. He was going to ruin him, huh? Looks like somehow Juan had in his hands a secret so powerful that it would destroy Matt's acting career had it been revealed. What? And do you know what the secret of Mr. Engard's is, Miss Andrews? Oh, she knows. That's something only Juan knew. I don't know what it was. Oh, I see. I've probably been coming off quite suspicious to everyone, but that's to be expected. I've been trying to protect Matt, after all. Protect Engard? And yet again, another strange bit of truth comes to light, it seems. Miss Andrews, if you could please tell us the truth about your behavior. Yes, Your Honor. I understand. From the moment I saw the crime scene, I had a feeling that Matt was the murderer. Matt had to kill Juan no matter what. And he didn't have an alibi for what he was doing at the time of the murder. My thoughts were confirmed by the evidence, of course. The button and the knife. But I'm Matt's manager, so I felt that I had to protect him. By covering it up, really? This does account for everything. Does it, though? Well, I am the logical type. We're finally seeing her true self. She's more nervous than a scared rabbit. If the defense can find no fault with this testimony, I am ready to make a ruling. Please keep that in mind as you cross-examine Mr. Wright. Looks like somehow everything has swung to the opposite end of the scale again. That just means I have to put my weight onto this and turn her logic upside down. And begin. From the moment I saw the crime scene, I had a feeling that Matt was the murderer. Would you say that was your intuition speaking to you? Don't confuse my methods of reasoning with your own. Ouch!
If you want to prove that someone did something, you need 3 things. 3 things? A motive, an opportunity to commit the crime, and finally, decisive evidence. And if you think these 3 things through, the answer becomes quite clear. You should have already known that, Phoenix. They didn't teach that to us in school, at least not from what I can remember. May I continue now? Matt had to kill Juan no matter what. So, would you say this need came from the press conference? The press conference he didn't know about? Yes. Do you know why Juan chose that event and that hotel for the conference? Because that was when he could cause the most damage to the public's beloved Matt Ungard.
And you knew of this plan, didn't you, Miss Andrews?
Yes. Because I was the one who set up the conference and prepared the costume. But I'm sure Mr. Ungard himself didn't know anything about the press conference. Oh, really? Can you show me any proof that he didn't know about the press conference? He told me. I know that's technically hearsay, but still. Not to mention that the burden of proof falls on the person making the assertion, not the one trying to reject that assertion. So, Phoenix wouldn't actually have to prove that Matt didn't know anything about the conference. Miss Andrews would have to prove that he did. Anyway, the important thing here is that this information was not in your testimony.
Yes, I agree. Miss Andrews, please correct your testimony, if you please.
Grasping at straws now, are we, Mr. Wright? I know what his motive was, but I don't have any way to prove I'm right. And he didn't have an alibi for what he was doing at the time of the murder. But didn't you already testify earlier that Mr. Ungard was taking a nap in his room? Are you telling me now that that too was a lie so you could cover for Mr. Ungard? I'm not telling you anything of the sort. When I went to get him for the show, he honestly was sleeping. However, as to whether he was sleeping the entire time, that I cannot say. I was too busy setting up the stage at the time.
I keep trying, but I can't find any flaws with what Miss Andrews has said. I can't say the same for some people here in this courtroom, however.
The judge is glaring straight at Mia. He's glaring at you, smart guy. My thoughts were confirmed by the evidence, of course. The button and the knife. You can hardly call the knife decisive evidence. The fingerprints on the knife could very well be a clever camouflage. Then, what about the button? The button? It's clear from the crime scene that the victim and his murderer fought. And during the fight, the killer ripped the button from the jamming ninja's costume.
You're talking about this button, correct?
That button was found in the pleats of Matt's hakama. Isn't that correct? I would think that makes it very decisive evidence.
Ugh. Looks like you were outfoxed again, Mr. Wright. Anyway, the knife doesn't prove a thing. Please fix your testimony.
I can't stand the sight of a man who can't gracefully accept his defeat. Ouch. Thank goodness Mia can still look at me. With an icy stare, yes.
Miss Andrews, for Mr. Wright's sake, please add this information to your testimony.
That button was torn off of Juan during his fight with Matt. This is the victim's autopsy report. It clearly states that the cause of death was strangulation by a scarf. Strangulation? The knife stab to the victim was done... The knife stab to the victim was done after the victim had already died.
And what does that mean?
Let's examine the evidence. This button was the victim's blood on it. which would mean that it was ripped off of the costume when? After the knife was stabbed into the victim. Exactly. Which means it is impossible that this button was torn off during the victim's final struggle, because the victim was strangled to death in the fight. Ugh! That's right, Miss Andrews. There is no way this button was ripped off during the struggle. This button was consciously ripped off of the victim's already dead body. Order! Order! What is the meaning of this, right? So what if the button was torn off the body after the victim had already died? What does that change? Question. Why would the killer be interested in ripping off a button off of the body of the victim and then leaving it in his own pocket? That makes no sense at all. Let me ask you one simple question, Mr. Edgeworth. Why was the button torn off? What purpose did that serve? What purpose? We now know this button was not torn off during the fight. So the murderer took the time and effort to purposefully rip this from the victim's body. That would mean that the murderer had something in mind, wouldn't it? Mr. Wright, does this mean you know what the murderer wanted to do with this button? What was it? To pin the crime on Engard. There's only one logical reason for doing something like that. It was to pin the crime on Mr. Engard. There is no way anyone would put a bloody button in their own pants. That's right. Mr. Engard was set up. By the real killer, of course. And the real murderer is... Well, Mr. Wright, who in the world is the real killer then? Finally. I can't believe I managed to bring this trial all the way up to this point. And in a day, no less. Phoenix, you can't let your guard down yet. Not until the very end. The real killer, the person who planned to frame Mr. Engard is... Miss Adrian Andrews. I choose you. You are Mr. Corrida's killer. What? And her glasses break again. Order! 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 Mr. Wright! That is a very grave matter. Do you have any evidence that supports your charge? Any evidence? All of the evidence points to Miss Andrews. How preposterous! You can't stick any of that on me. I can't, can I? Would you care to test me? Then what about the knife? The knife was used to stab the victim after he had already been strangled to death. It was used to throw suspicion onto Mr. Engard, naturally. A knife covered in the defendant's fingerprints would only be taken from his room. And the only one who had dinner with him and knew which knife to take was you. How many fucking pairs of glasses do you have? Then, what about the button that was found in Matt's Hakama? This button was removed from the victim's body after he had already died. The only people who could have done it so were the people who found his body or the killer. However, if Mr. Engard was the real killer, there is no way he would have put such incriminating evidence in his own Hakama. The only person who could have put this button into Edgar's Hakama is the person who went to wake him from his nap, which is you, yet again, Miss Andrews. I see. What about the empty guitar case? That is also another piece of evidence that incriminates Miss Andrews. That costume was used to hide the killer's real identity as they fled the scene. Now, who could have known that there was just such a costume inside of the guitar case? It could only have been the person who prepared the costume for the victim. And that person is you, Miss Adrian Andrews.
No,
But Miss Andrews' fingerprints were nowhere near to be found on the guitar case. And it was you who proved that she was not wearing gloves at the time. That's right! That's because she did not intend on leaving any prints. If anyone had found out that she had touched the case, they would have asked her why. So to avoid leaving any prints, she used a towel or something else to open it. But the glass of tomato juice is a different story. Miss Andrews purposely left her fingerprints on the glass to show that, yes, indeed, she was the classic dazed discoverer of a dead body.
Ah!
And to top it all off, there's this photo. A photo of the killer as they exited the scene of the crime. No reasonable person on Earth can believe this nickel samurai is Mr. Engard. He would be much too short for his own costume if it was.
Ooh.
Speaking of how tall people are, Miss Andrews, you're also kind of short in stature, aren't you?
Please, stop.
Well, how about it, Miss Andrews? I've got her this time. Miss Andrews?
I refuse to testify.
What was that?
There's a law that says I can't be forced to testify about something if it can incriminate me.
Well, yes. You are absolutely correct, Miss Andrews. The law does provide us with a way to avoid self-incrimination by allowing a witness to not testify if the testimony can cause damage to themselves.
What? Pleading the fifth is not something most people would think to do on the spot.
Actually, thinking back to yesterday in Mr. Engard's room.
Adrian Andrews.
Yes?
Think hard about what we just discussed. Think understood.
All right. That's it. That's when Francisca planted this idea into her head. She must have told Miss Andrews not to testify if things looked bad. You did a good job proving everything up to this point, Phoenix. But there's still one thing you haven't done. Something I haven't done? What's wrong, Wright? Are you finished already? Run out of evidence?
What's so funny, Mr. Edgeworth?
Oh, I'm sure you've realized this as well, Your Honor. But everything the good lawyer here has proven up to this point is meaningless. What? Everything you have proven is circumstantial. Circumstantial? Yes, circumstantial. You have yet to provide a single piece of definitive proof. Proof that Miss Andrews did in fact harbor a wish to murder Mr. Corrida. Oh, that I have that.
Miss Andrews, did you want to kill Mr. Corrida?
I believe this may lead to me incriminating myself, so I will abstain from answering.
But Miss Andrews, if you do that, it would be the same as admitting no guilt, don't you think?
Maybe so, or maybe not. There's nothing to prove it either way. Besides, you don't even know what crime I would be guilty of due to my silence. No! She's taking that defiant attitude again.
Mia, what should we do?
Somehow, we've landed in the worst possible situation.
I think we have reached a certain conclusion at this point in time. Miss Adrian Andrews has refused to testify, and the defense's theory that she is the actual murderer has not been fully substantiated with solid definitive proof.
But what I have done is I've proved that beyond a shadow of a doubt, Engard could not have been the murderer. Therefore, give me the not guilty verdict, please.
But that's not true. In this situation, there is only one thing this court can do, and that is to declare a recess.
But recess?
I request that both the prosecution and the defense look further into this matter. And at tomorrow's trial...
Tomorrow?
We don't have a tomorrow. If we don't get a not guilty verdict today, then... Please, wait, Your Honor. That's not necessary. The trial. Please continue the trial.
What are you sweating for? Your client is getting one more day to live, is he not?
That's not it. This isn't about that. Edgeworth, I know you know who the real killer is. Please let the trial continue. If I don't get the verdict, then Maya...
Oh, he didn't know.
Well, it's impossible to continue as long as the witness refuses to testify. Now then, this court is...
It is not impossible for this trial to continue.
Mr. Edgeworth, what are you...
It's true Miss Andrews holds the right against self-incrimination. However, if the topic of conversation was something unrelated to whatever she may be guilty of, then she has no right to withhold testimony.
Yes, that is very true, but...
Actually, there is one little thing that I am curious about. Miss Andrews. When you found the victim's dead body, you poured yourself a glass of juice. Yes. And? I can't help but think how unnatural that is. Usually when one finds a body, they are shaken up, not stirring a glass of juice. So my actions were unusual, but I've already said. Before you speak, I want to state that if you have a reason behind your actions, I would like you to testify to that effect. Testify? Your Honor, I would like to request that the witness testify again as to what happened when she first discovered the victim's body. Whatever we find out in this testimony should in no way implicate the witness. I don't know what this is about. I don't know what it is about Edgeworth today. But I can't get a good read off of him. Is he friend or foe? I just don't know.
The court acknowledges the prosecution's request. Miss Andrews, if you please.
That glass of juice, I didn't really pour it for myself. I was surprised when I walked into the room and I saw it in that messy state. And Juan, well, he was sitting slumped over and tired looking in the corner. When I saw him sitting like that, the thought that he was dead didn't cross my mind. To be honest, I thought he'd just fainted or something, so I went to pour him some juice. When I realized that he was dead, that's when I knocked the flower vase over.
So you poured that glass of juice for the victim. Why didn't you say so in your earlier testimony?
I didn't think I needed to include something so trivial. You know, more like you didn't think of it. Phoenix, please be careful here. If you can't find anything wrong with this testimony, then there's nothing left. I know. Edgeworth, what the heck's going on in that brain of yours?
Now then, Mr. Wright, you may begin your cross-examination.
When I found the body, that glass of juice, I didn't really pour it for myself. I was surprised when I walked into a room and saw it in that messy state. And Juan, he was sitting slumped over and tired looking in the corner. When I saw him sitting like that, the thought that he was dead didn't cross my mind. Oh, really?
So you honestly didn't think he was dead when you found him?
No, not at all.
Even though this is what you saw when you discovered the body? Ah! What is the meaning of this? Isn't it obvious, Your Honor? There is a knife sticking straight out of Mr. Corrida's chest. Anyone who saw this scene would have immediately thought that there was a dead man.
Well, you see,
I doubt a single person in the world would mistake this for someone who fainted, and then so nonchalantly go pour something to drink. Your point is? Miss Andrews, your testimony just now, it was all one gigantic lie.
ah!
And your lie has proven one thing very clearly, that you are the real killer. Looks like the defense has somehow brought the ugly truth to light. The defendant, Mr. Matt Ungod, is not guilty after all.
But that's impossible. You're wrong.
Miss Andrews, try to have some composure.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me, I tell you. It was Matt. I swear it. He's the one who killed Juan.
But you were the one who refused to testify. And your reason for not doing so was that you might end up incriminating yourself.
That's because...
Miss Andrews, I will give you one last chance. What exactly are you hiding that may incriminate you?
I refuse to testify.
Then there's no need for this court to continue any further. Mr. Manongod's innocence has been clearly demonstrated. Thank you. Is it over? Have we found the truth at last?
What's wrong, Phoenix?
Usually, the real killer confesses his or her guilt. And now that I think about it, this is the first time someone hasn't. Now then, I would like to hand down my verdict for Mr. Matt Ungod. Your Honor, the prosecution feels that it would be premature to pass down a verdict at this time. What? The reason is quite simple. This witness has yet to speak the absolute real truth. The absolute real truth? What are you? Witness, don't you understand yet? Huh? I don't know who planted this silly idea in your head, but as long as you protect yourself through your silence, Martin Guard will go free, and in his place, you will become the guilty party.
That's a lie. I don't believe you.
What?
I was told if I spoke, then it would be all over, and Matt would never be declared guilty.
What in the world is she talking about? Has she lost it?
I can't speak about it. I'm too scared.
It's Francisca von Karma.
Huh? Don't you remember, Phoenix? Miss Andrews lives by gripping tightly onto the words of others, because she doesn't have the strength to believe in herself.
But then, right now, Miss Andrews is...
Yesterday, she was tossed a lifesaver by Miss Von Karma. Don't say a word no matter what happens. If you do, Man on Guard will be acquitted. If Miss Andrews' undying beliefs in those words right now, and is clinging onto them.
Then what should we do? This is the first time I've ever come across something like this. But Miss Andrews has to be the killer, right?
All we have to do now is to get our not guilty. That's my only priority. It wasn't me. I'm begging you, please believe me. I didn't kill Juan. Help! Please, someone, help me!
Mr. Wright? Yes, Your Honor? The court can't continue on like this, therefore I'd like to hear what you intend to do.
What I intend to do? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to say? Right, I suggest you think very carefully about this. Think about what this witness did and what she did not do. And think about who is the real mastermind behind this crime. Who's the real mastermind? Isn't that obvious? There's no one else it could be except the crying woman right there. Right? I'm suddenly not so sure. Come now, what will you do? What kind of man are you, Mr. Phoenix Wright? You know what? Edgeworth tossed me a bone. I'm tossing him one right back. I have to win a complete acquittal today. There's no way around that. But I can't bring myself to do it like this. Not when she's making a face like that. Miss Andrews, I would like to know what you are really hiding.
Mr. Wright, are you sure you know what you're doing?
Sure, Mr. On Guard could get an acquittal, but in his place, you would be found guilty. Is this how you really want this trial to end? Be quiet. How dare you? You're trying to trick me.
That's enough! I commend you for trying, Mr. Edgeworth. However, it is clear that the defense's theory is the truth.
You're wrong. What a shame. Huh? I had hoped things wouldn't come to this. However...
Well, what is it, Mr. Edgeworth?
Miss Andrews, since you absolutely refuse to testify, it falls on my shoulders to disclose this to the court. Stop!
Mr. Edgeworth!
This witness, how should I put this? She has an illness. What? And because of this illness, she has tried to die by suicide in the past. So stop! Please stop! No matter how much you want to hide it, it's no truth. I have the evidence right here. Ah! That's the second part of the suicide report. The attempted suicide report. What will you do now, witness? You know what I'm about to do, don't you? Wow, this is a dirty trick. I'm not a fan of it, but at the same time, can't let her go down for a crime she didn't commit. I will now reveal to the court the true nature of the pitiful woman known as Adrienne Andrews. The secret of her dependent nature. Having other people know about it scares her more than anything else in the world. Please stop! I beg you! If people find out, if people find out, I'll... If you're going to say would choose death, that is of no concern to me. Wow. Edgeworth, how can you be so cold? However, before you die, I will pull the truth from your still breathing lips. No matter what I have to do. So, will you tell the court yourself, or shall I? Either is fine with me. I'll talk. But please, help me. Nothing matters anymore. Sorry, just had to take a quick drink there. When I first saw him, I really thought that he'd fainted. Honest. When I realized he was dead, that was when I formulated my plan. Once I made sure there was no one in the hallway, I made a dash back to Matt's room. And then, I stabbed Juan's dead body with the knife and ripped off the button. Just when I was finishing and I was returning to Matt's room, I had a bit of an inconvenience. And that's why I ended up using the nickel samurai costume.
Stab the body? With the knife? But why would you do that?
Isn't it obvious? To pin the blame on a certain someone. A certain cowardly man.
What do you mean by all of this?
It might take this court a little while to understand, but this is the truth. The real killer is Matt. That scumbag of a man. I'll never forgive him. He's trying to escape his guilt again, just like the last time.
Oh.
Last time? So Miss Andrews stabbed the victim, Juan Corrida, in the chest with the knife. However, she didn't do it with murder in mind. She did it with the intent of framing Matt and God for the murder. And this is her crime. Desecration of a dead body. What? How is this possible? I mean, wasn't Miss Andrews supposed to be the real killer?
Mr. Wright, please get over your shock and commence the cross-examination.
When I first saw him, I really thought he had fainted. Honest.
But you could tell from the state of the room was in that there must have been a fight. Are you telling the truth when you say that you did not know that he was dead?
He had a scarf tied around his neck. But that scarf's part of the jamming ninja's costume, so I didn't think anything about it. It was strange. His head was also tilted down a bit, so I couldn't see his face all that well. That's why I thought I'd wake him up and went to pull the juice. When I realized he was dead, that was when I formulated my plan.
What is this plan that you had?
I knew right away the murderer was Matt. I knew because Juan, he was going to expose Matt's weakest weak point to the world. So Matt did this to stop Juan and silence him for good. That's when I thought I should forge some evidence and pin this crime on Matt. So the forged pieces of evidence were the knife and the button. First thing that came to mind was to plant the knife. Once I made sure there was no one in the hallway, I made a dash back to Matt's room.
That was so you could get the knife, correct?
The knife Matt used at dinner had his fingerprints all over it. I thought that if I used it, then the police would certainly turn their eyes towards him. Matt was napping with his costume on at the time. I slipped in, took the knife, and returned to the scene of the crime. And then, I stabbed Juan's dead body with the knife and ripped off the button.
So you were the one who stabbed the victim with that knife?
It gives me goosebumps just thinking about it now. What a horrible thing I did. But at the time, I couldn't control my own body. It moved on its own. Then, when I stabbed Juan's dead body, I suddenly realized something. If I used the button somehow, I could make Mac look even more suspect. So you thought to rip one of the buttons off and then plant it on Mr. Ungod's Hakama. Yes, that's what I had planned to do. But things never go that smoothly, do they? Just when I finished and was returning to Matt's room, I had a bit of an inconvenience.
An inconvenience?
There was a woman with a camera at the ready, loitering in the hallway.
I'm willing to bet my spikes it was Lotta.
There was also a woman with a ray gun at the ready, pacing back and forth. That's Miss Oldbag for you. I'd already been caught and made into a big scoop for a certain weekly tabloid once. So I couldn't very well go out looking like myself and get caught again. And that's why I ended up using the nickel samurai costume. You were the one who prepared that costume, weren't you? Yes. I took it from Global Studios. I also put it into Juan's guitar case the day before the award ceremony. You did this in preparation for the press conference, correct? Yes. Juan wanted to wear that costume and hold a press conference in it. He was going to disclose Matt's big secret there.
And what is this secret?
That I don't know. Anyway, I thought that if I were to leave Juan's room in the nickel samurai costume, then people would think that Matt was the real murderer. I was very careful not to leave any fingerprints when I opened the guitar case. I absolutely did not want anyone to know about the costume.
I think we've heard enough. So after that, you went back to Mr. Engad's room and planted the button.
To Matt's Hakama? Yes. After that, I folded up the costume I was wearing and put it into a bag. Then I snuck it out of the hotel and got rid of it.
My word! What does all this mean?
Mr. Edgeworth, is it? The real criminal is Matt on guard. Yesterday, that woman prosecutor sat me down for a talk.
Francisca, huh?
She said that I should under no circumstances confess to what I did. That if I just kept quiet, then Matt would be found guilty for sure. I had no choice but to believe in her words.
What this witness has done is clearly unlawful. However, as long as her testimony stands, we can be certain she is not the real killer.
But wait, Your Honor, the defense still... Right? It's pointless. At this point in time, it is not possible to indict Miss Andrews on anything.
Yes, exactly. There isn't a single piece of evidence that points to her as the murderer. The cross-examination of this witness is over, and so is today's trial. You couldn't establish that the witness was the culprit. Please let it go, Mr. Wright. But... Mr. Edgeworth, please place Miss Andrews under arrest for further questioning.
Understood, Your Honor. The prosecution will arrange for her detention immediately.
That is all. Court is now adjourned for the day.
Fuck.
Today's trial is over. And I didn't win an acquittal.
Witness, would you mind if I asked you something?
Edgeworth?
What is it? Before you leave court today, I wondered if I might look at one thing. The card in your hand. It has had my interest for quite some time now. What exactly is it? Oh, this? Mr. Wright also asked about this. Although I didn't remember at the time you asked me about it, Mr. Wright. I remembered just now. I found this in the room on that day.
The room?
That day? Yes. I found this card when I discovered Juan's body. It was lying there right next to him.
You found that card next to the victim's body?
I suppose I must have unconsciously slipped it into my pocket. But it's not as if this card has any relevance to Juan's murder, right? Yeah, I guess not, but it's still a strange card if you ask me. But as far as a clue to this case, I don't see why. Witness! That card! Give it to me! Hurry! Edgeworth? Do you have any idea what you stupidly yet inadvertently done? This... I can't believe you hid this from me all this time!
I didn't mean to.
What is this all about?
I've never seen Edgeworth so emotional before. That card. What in the world is it? And what does it mean? Oh, balls! So the story continues on. We have lost the trial, and we have no idea what's up with Maya. I can only hope that she managed to escape from her abductor, and that she's still alive, despite the fact that, that Nick wasn't able to get the acquittal on the first day. Which, I mean, if we're being honest, it was a fucking tall order. But what's the card and its symbolization got Edgeworth all upset about? I mean, you would think that he'd be more upset with the fact that she actually collected evidence from a crime scene and didn't hand it over, but the meaning of the card itself seems to have taken Edgeworth aback. I'm interested in finding out more about that, but more importantly, what about Maya? But I guess we'll have to wait until next time to find out the answers to those. So in the meantime, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like or subscribe. If not, leave a comment below letting me know what I can do to improve. And until the next time, guys, ciao.